Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. What page is it?
I'm not sure. I don't know how to read this.
7:14.
Okay, 7. Yeah. They've got it.
No, 7:6.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا
يا أيها الذين آمنوا
لا تقدموا
لا تقدموا
بين يدي الله
بين يدي الله
ورسوله
ورسوله
واتقوا الله
واتقوا الله
إن الله سميع عليم.
إن الله سميع عليم.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا
يا أيها الذين آمنوا
لا ترفعوا أصواتكم
لا ترفعوا أصواتكم
فوق صوت النبي
فوق صوت النبي
ولا تجهروا له
ولا تجهروا له
بالقول
بالقول
كجهر بعضكم
كجهر بعضكم
لبعض أن تحبط
أن تحبط
أعمالكم
أعمالكم
وأنتم لا تشعرون.
وأنتم لا تشعرون.
إن الذين يغضون
إن الذين يغضون
أصواتهم
أصواتهم
عند رسول الله
عند رسول الله
أولئك الذين امتحن الله
أولئك الذين امتحن الله
قلوبهم للتقوى
قلوبهم للتقوى
لهم مغفرة وأجر عظيم.
لهم مغفرة وأجر عظيم.
إن الذين
إن الذين
ينادونك
ينادونك
من وراء الحجرات
من وراء الحجرات
أكثرهم لا يعقلون.
أكثرهم لا يعقلون.
ولو أنهم صبروا
ولو صبروا
حتى تخرج إليهم
حتى تخرجوا
لكان خيرا لهم
لكان خير لهم.
والله غفور رحيم.
والله غفور رحيم.
صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah, all praise for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious, the most merciful, and all may blessings and peace be upon noble Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has given us the tawfiq to sit before these 5 ayat of Surah Hujurat. Surah Hujurat has 18 ayats in it, and we'll be looking at the first 5 of them, inshallah. This surah is in regards to social conduct. The previous 2 surahs before Surah Hujurat were Surah Muhammad and Surah Fath. Surah Fath, the conquest of Surah Hudaybiyah. We just finished that. Before that, Surah Muhammad. These 2 surahs have to do with Jihad. These 2 surahs right prior to this one. And Jihad is, what is Jihad all about? It's all about, the definition of Jihad is that to remove zulm from the world, to remove oppression. That's the definition of Jihad. Is to remove oppression from the world. Now in this surah, Surah Hujurat, it's all about rectifying the nafs. It's about rectifying yourself. The surahs 2 prior were about removing zulm from the world. And this one is about healing yourself. As we know that healing yourself is more important, right? You have to be, you can't always be out there trying to heal everyone else if you haven't thought about healing yourself. Right? Healing yourself is very, very important. Nafs Islam. So that's what's here in the surah. The surah is called Hujurat. It's the plural of Hujra, which means room. Actually, in some other languages, this means room, but in Arabic, it's kind of like a room. What we call as a room, like any walled structure is called a Hujra. Like a room, what we perceive as a room, it would be the Arabic Hujra, and it's called Hujurat, like rooms, chambers, because the Prophet ﷺ around Masjid Nabawi, Prophet ﷺ, his 9 wives, he had a room for each one of them. Their home was just a room. Each wife would just get a room. That's it. That's everything. They didn't used to have toilets that you have to go outside for that. So everything is there. Your kitchen, everything, you just get one room. It's not such a huge. You can go visit Saudi Arabia, some of the museums to see how big that room is. Some I think some of the Sahabis later on who went inside. I think it was Hassan al-Basri, rahmatullah alayhi, one of the like tabi'in. And I mean, you can't even stand up in it. It's short. It's a very small room, like your walk-in closets. To give you some perspective, like the walk-in closets you see in the big homes, it's like a walk-in closet. It's smaller than a walk-in closet, typical, depending on how big the house is. So each one had that, and the door to that, one door, and it leads to the masjid in time of Rasulullah. So it doesn't even lead to the outside. The door goes right to the masjid. These rooms, these were the greatest rooms, and they were the most simplest rooms. They're the greatest rooms because they're the rooms of the wives of Rasulullah. It's like in other words, it's Rasulullah's homes. So they were the greatest homes, but they were the most simplest homes. Later on, Prophet ﷺ had ordered that their doors not be coming to the masjid. They all be shut, they open from the other side. And he said only Abu Bakr's door should open this side. That was also an indication that he's the next Khalifa, that his door will only open this side. So the chambers of Rasulullah ﷺ, this was mentioned here. The surah is called after that, named after that. I mean, okay, how do we know that they're so great? Because there's a whole surah called the chambers or the apartments. If you want to call it apartment, I mean, our apartments have some bedrooms in it, a different room, but if you want to call it an apartment, one room apartment, studio. So they're the greatest because there's a surah named after it, but they were the most simplest structures. The last one, I think maybe 200 years after, 300 years, I forget which king it was, who was the first one to break them. Because Muslims kept it there, those rooms. Nobody wanted to touch them. That was their memory of Rasulullah. And I think around maybe 200 years after, I forget which Khalifa it was, he came and he started destroying them. And the whole Medina was crying that time that, oh, these are the last memory of Rasulullah's homes. Now you guys are demolishing it. Because they had to build a masjid, they had to go the other route. They had to continue building the Masjid Nabawi the other angle. So this surah, it begins, the first verse reads, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, La tuqaddimu bayna yaday Allahi wa rasulihi. Don't go ahead of Allah and His Rasul. Wattaqullah, and have taqwa of Allah. Inna Allah sami'un alim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all hearing and all knowing. So this is the first principle. This surah has 12 principles of social living. If somebody masters these 12 principles, he can conduct himself in a way, in a nice way socially. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to understand them well, inshallah. Now there's many interpretations of don't go ahead of Allah and the Rasul. One is a general meaning. What is it like if you just look at the literal meaning, don't go ahead of Allah and His Rasul. The Prophet is walking, don't go ahead of him. This is a manner. The first two manners that we'll be reading here is all pertaining to Rasulullah, right? Like talking about him, that Sahaba be wary of this with Rasulullah, but they also apply to Ahl Ilm. It also applies to people of knowledge, the heirs of the Prophet. It applies to ulama. And there's also mentioned consequences. People who wouldn't follow these etiquettes with Rasulullah, it would be like disobedience to Rasulullah, and the punishment of that would be is that your a'mal will start to diminish. So, but again, same thing applies with deen and Ahl Ilm. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from disrespecting them. It teaches a lot of adab, manners as well, and the importance of adab is highlighted here. So so one meaning is, whatever I believe, that's a general, but some say it means don't go against Allah and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like la tuqaddimu, don't go ahead of them. Like if Allah and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam have said something, that should be it. Don't go ahead of it. For a Muslim, if you're a Muslim, how could you go ahead of Allah and the Rasul? You heard what Allah and the Rasul said, you need to stop. So like let's just say there's counseling going on, there's a meeting, there's anything, and the group has decided that has found out this is what Allah and the Rasul say. Shall that group go ahead of them? No, they just stop right there. And this is, if you keep this as a principle, social principle in any of your social circles, you realize that all the nafs, all the sharara that it has, the evil that it has, it curbs it. Because nafs wants to do its things, But when you tell the nafs that no, hey, we're bound by the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's like, for example, if there's a couple you're counseling, right? Husband and wife who have issues. And you tell them, okay, well, we're going to resolve your issues. We're going to tell you what Allah and the Rasul say. Both parties should agree that you'll agree. And if they both agree that they're going to agree whatever Allah and the Rasul say in regards to their matter, then the nafs now cannot do sharar on any side because they both have agreed that we'll just submit to whatever Allah says. So it's a principle. Okay, it's a uniting principle. It's a unity. It's a principle that brings harmony. Also, this is a principle also to unite Muslims. People talk about unity. Why are Muslims united? Why aren't they united? Well, there's many. What should we unite on? The question arises: what do we unite on? Should we unite because we're all Pakistanis? Some people should unite that they're all Afghanis. Some people should unite they're all Bengali. Is that what we are nationalities? Is that what we're supposed to be uniting on? Should we unite on food? All the people who love biryani is in this camp. Some people who don't like biryani, who like other foods, you please go to a different camp. I mean, these are reasons for unity, but these are not the real reason. Islamic unity, it should be based on ilm, it should be based on sound knowledge and obedience to Allah and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is the proper. So if Muslims were to seek ilm and their ilm gets sound, and on the base of their ilm they start uniting, that will be true unity, and their hearts will really be in sync. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us tawfiq. There are three contexts here. The context of these verses. So sometimes a verse doesn't have one context; it has multiple. Some say that this was the reason why this verse was revealed. Some Sahaba report that this was revealed. So I'll give you the three contexts. One context was that Abu Bakr radiallahu and Umar radiallahu anhu. Some tribes would come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some had accepted Islam, some not. And they would appoint a leader amongst them. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say, okay, this is a leader amongst them. He will take care of the tribal needs. Like this leader will speak to us in regards to the needs of your tribe. So there was a tribe there. So Abu Bakr and Umar both had a different suggestion as to who the leader should be. So they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they both just spoke. Abu Bakr and Umar that, oh, I think that should be the leader. And Umar said, no, I think that should be the leader. But they spoke before they were asked to speak. So they broke that manner. So since they say the context of this verse is don't go ahead of them, like where you don't speak before you're asked to speak. So in front of elders, you're not supposed to give your opinions. When the elders are talking, when Ahli Ilm were superior to you, that manner is what? You don't give opinions, you don't say anything, you just stay quiet. You just stay quiet unless they permit you or they ask you for your opinion. Or you say, may I share my 2 cents? Then you share your 2 cents. This manner. So now are we losing this manner? What do you think, guys? In society, we're losing this manner. Everybody just speaks.
We go ahead of each other.
We go ahead of each
They
other.
don't take permission.
We don't have a hierarchy. We don't keep that hierarchy. We don't know who's superior, who's not. No one's superior. Everybody's superior. This is how we're becoming. We're losing our social fabric. This is not right. Islam is not just about prayer and namaz and sunnah and dress code. Beyond that, we also have a social contact. So the Muslims are really losing their social. So we need to bring that back. It's like we need to bring salah back, proper salah. We need to also bring our social rubric back. So you understood what happened here? So they both spoke before they were asked. Then the next, I'll just give you the next verse already. Like don't raise, because verse 1 and 2 are connected. The next verse says, don't raise your voice above the voice. And when they were saying it, they also got loud of it. Because he should be the leader. He should be the leader. So they spoke before time. And who are these two people? The greatest of the ummah. And who came to correct? Now Rasulullah's heart was such, he didn't used to correct, like he was so gentle, he didn't used to take things personal. He's always forgiving. He didn't mind that at all. Personally. Many of the times in the Quran when you see corrections, it's not that Rasulullah was minding. Rasulullah doesn't mind. He's always forgiving of people. That doesn't get you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not tolerate that disrespect around Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's why the verses come. You understand now? So then these two verses were revealed. Correcting the adab of who? Abu Bakr and Umar, the greatest of the ummah, that don't go ahead of him. Why is your voice is going above the voice of Rasulullah? That's one context. Another context is there was a Qurbani time, and someone had done their Qurbani before Eid, or before Rasulullah did it. Prophet taught people about Qurbani. Someone did their Qurbani after Fajr, before the Eid Salah. So then he was told, this is the context. So why are you going ahead of Allah and the Rasul? You were taught Qurbani, but you did it before Rasulullah even did it. Rasulullah was going to do it after the Eid prayer. That's another context. And another context is there were some people who, like before Ramadan starts, they didn't wait for the moon to be sighted. They just started fasting from prior. Yom Shak, the day of doubt. So then they were made to correct that, you were supposed to start at a particular time. You're just starting in advance. Don't go ahead of Allah and Rasulullah. Why are you starting first? Don't go ahead of Allah and Rasulullah. Then the next part, and the first ayah, the next piece of it, wattaqullah, and have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Taqwa is the soul of all acts, all ibadahs. The purpose is to be conscious and obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then it says, Inna Allah sami'un alim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hears everything and knows everything. Why does it say that? Like, when it says that, actually sometimes we don't discuss that too much. We just say, okay, Allah is all hearing, we just move on. But usually every attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of the ayah has a correlation to the whole verse. That attribute is not just written there. There's a connection between the two. So sometimes we mention the connection, sometimes in tafseers we don't, because we just move on, we just translate. But the connection here, actually not a connection, just a general understanding. And when it says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all hearing, all knowing, it means that He'll take you to account. Because it says have taqwa of Allah. Then it says indeed Allah is all hearing and all knowing. So it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not all hearing and all knowing. That what is He going to do with hearing and all knowing everything that people do? It's to tell us that you're going to be taken to task. We're hearing everything and we are hearing everything and we know everything. And you will be taken to task. Like this. This is the message. Everyone understood the message? All right. Moving on. Also, we learn from these verses, before I move on to the next verse, don't give mashwara in front of your superior. The elders are sitting there, don't give mashwara. We just talked about that. Ulama are sitting there, don't give mashwara unless you're asked. And then you say, may I? And then you add something, like you ask to say something like that. So you be very mindful of that. We also have to learn silence, to practice silence, sitting and not saying anything. And then you're benefiting just by being there. And when you want to contribute, then having the proper manners of how you're going to contribute, whatever you need to wish to say or contribute. We can't just be a society of just talking. Jo aya, whatever comes, just shoot it. You have to, if you're mindful of your words, everything is you're gonna be held accountable for it. There's a story written here. There was someone in his gathering. Someone came and asked a question. In his khanqah, in his spiritual center, he would have all these people around him asking questions. People would come travel to be in his company. So someone asked, I think a young man asked that he has a hard time, he can't get married right now, and he has a hard time controlling his desires. He asked that question. But before Maulana could answer that question, there was another gentleman sitting there. He was a Ahli Hadith. We are the Ahli Hadith, but the people who are known as Ahli Hadith. Alhamdulillah, we are the Ahli Hadith and the Ahli Sunnah. But there are some people who just know the outward of Islam, who've learned some teachings here and there, some ahadith and all that. He was one of those types of people. And those types of people, their habit is they usually talk a lot. They have an answer to everything. They give quick responses. So before Maulana could answer this young man, to answer his question, how should he curb his desires if he's not about to get married anytime soon, he quickly jumped. He's like, I know, you're supposed to fast. Then the young man said, oh, that doesn't work for me. I fast, but my desires are to keep going up. Now he's quiet. The gentleman is quiet. Maulana asks him, go ahead, keep answering. What's the next answer now? So we need to indicate to him that you didn't. Why did you have to jump in? You're not supposed to say things. You don't need to jump in. Now continue answering. You couldn't answer. The answer to that was that there's a way to fast. It is that if you fast, there's a certain way you're supposed to fast, and that's going to curb your. It's not as simple as just fasting. The way he was fasting was actually increasing his desires, but there was a way he was supposed to fast, and it was going to curb his desires. Sorry, I forget the answer. What was that actual way? I forget at the moment. You'll have to look it up. So like that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to not go ahead of Allah and Rasulullah. Is there any benefit in that? If it is Ahle Ilm, he's Ahle Ilm, right? We're not Ahle Ilm. That man is Ahle Ilm. There's no point of jumping ahead of that ilm. is because you're breaking manners in society. We can't be a society, we can't get ahead like that. If we all have proper respect, proper hierarchy in our society, we're all going to be synced, everyone's going to benefit, we're all going to grow. May Allah give us that kind of society. Inshallah. So may Allah SWT give us tawfiq to be silent and observe this first principle. Moving on, the second one, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe. La tarfa'u aswatakum, don't raise your voice fawqa sawti an-nabi, above the voice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wa la tajharu lahu, and don't be very loud in front of him. Kajahri ba'dikum li ba'd, just like some of you are loud with one another, lest that your a'mal start to diminish or get wiped away whilst you don't even know. So it's giving a warning that if you're going to speak like louder than the Prophet ﷺ in front of him, like the way you talk to people, you're going to start talking to Rasulullah ﷺ like that, then there's a chance. Tahbat actually means we're going to wipe your amal will get wiped, you don't even know it. It's actually speaking about what's known as the Urdu language gustakh. That you're going to end up disrespecting and breaking the manners of Rasulullah ﷺ, and you won't even like antum la tash'urun, you won't even perceive it. But when you show up on Yawm al-Qiyamah, your a'mal would have been wiped because of that disrespect that you did back there. That's the actual warning. So, first, the idea of speaking loudly. What does the Quran say about speaking loudly? Generally, it's against manners to speak very loudly. Very loudly is very frustrating, and we don't like it when someone's yelling or. It said that it's part of piety to speak moderately, in a low voice, and also to walk also very, very moderately as well. Right? It says in the Quran, in the places, that the loud voice is the voice of the donkey. Right? In one verse of the Quran, also talks about that you should walk in a humbling manner on the earth. So you walk and how you talk, this manners to that. So as far as this verse, as far as it wipe away your a'mal, so the scholars have said, no, the only thing that wipes away your a'mal is kufr, shirk, that completely wipes away. So these types of activities are not going to wipe, but you're going to have something called nahusa. You're going to have some type of curse on you because of your bad manner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with Rasulullah, with the Islamic teachings. Because you've had bad manner, you're going to have this nahusa, then you're going to start losing a'mal, meaning that you were praying nawafil, your nawafil will stop. Everything will start diminishing. That's one way of explaining it. So much so, and then you'll get into this negativity and that negativity, and just move on. And all began, it was a spiral effect from your first bad manner. See where bad manner leads? And then you may leave this world without iman. So manner is actually very, very important. And these are manners that are being taught to us here. There's a saying, ad-deenu kulluhu adab, the religion, all of it is manner. Also, salah is manner. In salah is manner. You're standing before Allah, so the way you're standing, the sunnah position is manner before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So speaking in a low voice. Then obviously I've given you the context. It's Abu Bakr, Omar, and they're speaking in a louder voice. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to do amal. In a home, what will be a good manner? To speak loudly in the home or low voice? Low voice. If the dad comes in and he's yelling, and then the mom comes in and she's also yelling, and the son is also yelling, then the daughter will also start yelling and says, is this sukoon? It's not sukoon. Sukoon would be if everybody is calm and everybody is doing their own activities within the home. So this is very important that this be taught, that you don't shout unnecessarily, you don't talk loud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. This is the adab, these are the social adab that we need to bring back in case they're missing. And we need to instill them in the young people and everyone. Then moving on. The third verse, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَغُضُّونَ, those who have lowered their voice, عِنْدَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ, in the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ امْتَحَنَ اللَّهُ, those people, their hearts have been tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for taqwa, لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ, and they're going to have forgiveness and a great reward. So when these verses were revealed, that lower your voice. Okay, so the Sahaba, you know how literally they take everything. Sahaba, they were very punctual. So they all are like, oof, that, if you're gonna raise your voice, your a'mal are gonna go zilch. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar radiallahu anhu, the Sahabiyat explained that they were just like, they were whispering to people's ears from that point onwards. And there's one person who was known to be a public speaker in their gatherings. This Sahabi's name was Thabit ibn Qais radiallahu anhu. He was known for a loud voice. That public speakers speak loud. So Rasulullah, if somebody came into Makkah and he was giving loud speeches, against Islam or something, and then Rasulullah had to respond, that they needed the loudspeaker. So they would get this gentleman, Thabit ibn Qais, Rasulullah would ask him to speak loud, that he speaks very loudly. So when he had heard that this verse was revealed, that we speak loudly, all your amal are zilch, he didn't come out of his house. He's like, I'm not even going back to the masjid. Like, I'm definitely included. In fact, I'm a very loud speaker. So after that, Rasulullah noticed that the Sahabi is missing. They found out that he's at home crying. That he's like, I'm definitely not. I mean, if people speak loud, I speak the loudest. But then Rasulullah told him, no, this doesn't include you. Because you do that naturally. You do that naturally. This art is just the way you speak. Allah is giving you that. So you're not raising your voice. You're normally a loud speaking person. So it does not include you at all. So then he came back. Then the next verse, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُنَادُونَكَ. Basically what had happened, before I give you the next verse, let me give you the context to this. The next two verses, we only have two more verses left, right? What is this ayah? What number? We already did the testing one, right? Umar radiallahu anhu, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, their voice became very low, Sahabi stopped coming. And now we're doing ayah 4 and 5. 4 and 5 were in regards to a tribe, Banu Tamim. The tribe Banu Tamim. You know who Umar radiallahu anhu, and they were trying to choose the leader for. Same tribe. Their tribe name was Banu Tamim. Banu Tamim, they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's home, and they were like, oh Muhammad, come out, we're here to see you. Because they didn't know the Islamic manners. They were tribal people, and they didn't know the Islamic manners. They hadn't hanged around with Sahaba and realized the adab. So they had just said it just like that. Oh Muhammad, we're out here. Can you please come out? He was at his house. So then these verses were revealed. And again, reiterating, Rasulullah was a person, he wouldn't have minded that personal. He wouldn't take that personal. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always brings the ayah to explain that it's unacceptable. So the verses translate, verily those who call you from outside of the chambers, most of them don't have sense. Most of them don't have sense. Meaning they don't have any, here by saying don't have sense, meaning they don't have any religious understandings. Their adabs are all over, they have no adab. But if they were to be patient, if they were just patient outside, until you came out to them, it would have been better for them. Wallahu ghafurun, but Allah is most forgiving, most merciful. Meaning the idea is also that they're not, I mean, they're having very bad manner, but they're not accountable for it because they haven't hung around with Sahaba Ikram, that they be taught the Islamic manners, and then they'll be held to account. So in this ayah, we learn here, there's a subtle hint here. When it says, if they were patient until the Prophet came out to them, in that verse where it says to them, there's a more subtle hint of respect. First of all, that to wait at the door of your teachers. Like not even to wait at the doors of teachers, and also, right, don't cause any disturbance to the teacher. And also, when he comes out, until he comes, like let's just say Prophet did come out. It will still be disrespect that once he came out, and if you were to go, yeah, I'm here this way, right? I was in line first to speak to you. That will still be, but what if he doesn't want to speak to you? What if he needs to go the other way? You should allow the Prophet came out of his house, and then if he saw a couple of people standing there, and if he would choose to go towards you, if he's going the other way, then you'd leave. That would have been the right manner. So that's hinted here. That lest you were patient, that he came out to you. That's what you had to do. Like there'll still be bad manners that he came out, Prophet was walking the other route, and then you came in, blocked him. I said, we're here to see you. So remember this thing. Allahu Ghafurur Rahim. Allah is most forgiving, most merciful. So these are the adab, and again, these adab that we're mentioning with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with Sahaba Ikram, with Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, these also apply to Ahl Ilm in their own way. This deen has come down to us. It's all adab, right? Our social Muslim societies need to have adab, and if they want to progress, right, or else they're not going to progress. We're not going to benefit from one another. So may Allah subhanahu grant us these adab. Now the stories are so many about adab. You go through the stories of adab and teach what are the respective, what kind of respective Imam Hanifa had, Imam Malik had for like even Medina, like the cities, how much respect they had for knowledge, how much respect did they have, right? You could just imagine, it's mind-boggling, right? That would be a topic of its own. Each scholar and all his respects, right? So that's a very huge thing in the deen. But just to give you an example, there was a first cousin of Rasulullah was Abdullah ibn Abbas. Abdullah ibn Abbas, when Prophet was passing away, he was 10 years old. Abdullah ibn Abbas is one of the big ulama amongst the Sahaba, giants, ulama of Tafseer. Actually, the most of the opinions of the Hanafi school come from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and the opinions of the Shafi'i school come from Abdullah ibn Abbas, who's the Chachazad Bhai. Chachazad Bhai, which means first cousin. But he had also learned from Rasulullah because he hung around with Rasulullah. Rasulullah gave him dua. He had a lot of ilm at age 10. But at age 10, Rasulullah is passing away. Then he continued learning from the Sahaba. So we also learn, great humbleness there. Sometimes people are like that once the great teacher passes, they go, oh, the great has passed. Up to now we can't study anymore. People do that. People have that. They can't continue. But you have to always, with ilm, you have to continue. So we can learn that from Abdullah ibn Abbas. He continued learning. That young man, he learned from all the Sahaba who were there. And there's amazing stories because he was the first cousin of, he was very close in terms of family. First cousin of Rasulullah. So there's stories about how he would go study with Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu ta'ala. Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu ta'ala was a Sahabi who was very good with Quran. Remember Ubay ibn Ka'b, Umar radiallahu ta'ala asked him to start the Taraweeh, everyone will just pray behind you. That's very good with a very specialist of the Qira'ah. So he would go to Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu ta'ala's home and he would knock the door. He would stay there because this verse of the Quran. Remember how they said, the tribe of Banu Tamim came and said, oh Muhammad, come out. So because of that verse, he would just go to the teacher's home and he just sit there. Ubay ibn Ka'b. And then finally Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu ta'ala came out. He would say, why did you do that? I would come to your house. So he has immense love for him and he has immense love for him. He said, why did you are the first cousin of Rasulullah. You had to learn something. You just asked me, I would be at your house to teach it to you. You don't have to come here at my door. He said, no, okay, that's the adab. I mean, I'm here to learn from you and I'm not going to knock. I'm going to wait. I'm not going to ask for you to come out or when I'm going to come. I'm going to wait until you're free to tell me. But this is how much they had. Another incident, he learned from all the giants. Again, that also shows you the recipe to success. Continue learning. Now imagine if he was to stop, if he was to go, oh, Rasulullah passed, I'm his first cousin, I think I have it all, I'm done. Then it wouldn't be the great Abdullah ibn Abbas that we know today. This young man was taught the pursuit of ilm. He was very eager. He studied also with Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu ta'ala. He came to Zayd, the same thing. At his door, is not going to ask to come in. Is there until finally he comes out. And he says, why have you come? He goes, because I know that you know one hadith of Rasulullah and I need to hear it directly from you. I need to get that hadith. So he kissed the forehead. Zayd ibn Thabit kissed the forehead of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala. And then when Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala was leaving, he fixed his footing, like on his ride. He fixed his foot area, put it in. He's like, why are you doing this? I'm here to learn from you. He said, well, you're the first cousin of Rasulullah. So immense love this way and immense love that way. This is, how they had studied. So that serves as a great model. And adab, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Adab is actually required in every subject in the world. Discipline is required in every subject of the world to learn it more, to have the barakah in it, but especially in the Islamic sciences. So Islamic sciences, they require just 100% adab for success in Islamic science. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us tawfiq to seek ilm, to seek adab. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us it. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah al-azim.